we're going to go live. Thank you. So we've got a briefing now on the Mayoral Forum's Regional Energy Workstream. And so I have Jessie from Environment Canterbury, of course, and Fania, who's from the Regional Public Service Canterbury and Chatham Islands. And they will just explain a little bit who they are and what this piece of, how you fit into this piece of work, and then go into the presentation and what we've been finding out. So, kia ora.
Kia ora, councillors. So just off the back of that introduction, I'd just like to firstly introduce Fania as our project lead on the Regional Energy Inventory from the Regional Public Service. This work sits within the Mayoral Forum context. I represent our council on the Economic Development Forum, which is one of the forums that sits below the Mayoral Forum. So in the structure there, we have the Mayoral Forum, the chief executives that sit below, and then we have a number of other forums that sit along below that with a number of different work streams and programs under their individual forum. So the ED, the Economic Development Forum, is one that I sit on, and Marie Ward from the Regional Public Service sits on as a representative of that organisation on the Economic Development Forum. And as part of this work, collectively we've put together resource to deliver the Regional Energy Inventory, which I'll go through with you now. So that's a little bit of the structure and context. The aim of these briefings to council as well is to bring through some of the Mayoral Forum, Greater Christchurch public transport work, Greater Christchurch work, regional transport, etc. So certainly you'll see me up here hopefully in the near future a bit more information to you to help both daylight some of that work, but also bring our council's view back into that work as well. So we have an ECAN voice in that space as well. Noting that Chair Pauling sits on the Mayoral Forum, Stephanie is our CE on the CE Forum, and myself and others sitting on those various fora. The purpose of today is really just to get you across the...
Sorry, Jessica, would Fania like to just explain where you fit into the piece as well? Thank you.
Sure. Kia ora koutou, ko Vani Lawal toku ingoa. So I'm the lead advisor for the Regional Public Service for Canterbury and Chatham. So a lot of people haven't heard what that is, but across New Zealand there are 12 different commissioners that look after 16 different regions. I would say that we've got the best one, so Canterbury and Chatham Islands. We are a small team that kind of work across central government and public service in particular, and making those connections between central government and public service agencies and local government priorities. We see this work particularly for us as being something we were interested in getting involved with because of the economic development kind of push as being both a local and central government priority. So we've been kind of gifted in kind to do some of the work in this space.
Great. So the purpose of today is to give you a bit of an update on the Regional Energy Inventory work. The team that's been behind that includes Vanya as the project lead, Tammy Phillips from my team, our principal advisor in the Regional Transport and Urban Development space, and Rebecca Hibbert is senior advisor at the Public Service Commission as well. So the team has been diligently in the background pulling together all the current state information for the Regional Energy Inventory and running a number of workshops and things which I'll go into as well. But this originated essentially within the Mayor's Plan for Canterbury. So one of the actions within the Mayoral Forum's Plan for Canterbury states that the Mayoral Forum will support the region to foster partnerships to investigate barriers, harness opportunities to improve our energy security and systems in ways that maximise benefits for our community, economy and environment. To give effect to that direction within the Plan for Canterbury, the Economic Development Forum discussed how we might address that, and first step in that process was to develop a good understanding of the energy sector across Canterbury, and put that in the context of the national context as well, and some of the challenges that we're seeing going forward. So this is really seen as a critical building block. It's a key piece of the evidence base to support future energy conversations and processes. to develop a collective understanding and shared picture of Canterbury's energy futures and identify some of the regional priorities for Canterbury. This will inform future work. So we're just about to embark on phase 2, which I'll cover in a sec. And that's around developing an energy strategy framework for the region and an energy action plan and actions supporting that. And this also sits within the broader context of a range of other streams of work. We've talked about regional spatial planning earlier today. There's also economic priorities and development, climate change, decarbonisation. It ties in with our housing, river work, infrastructure. There's a lot of touch points with this energy work, so very cognizant of that ecosystem of work that's happening at the minute. As I said, the regional energy workstream sits within the Economic Development Forum. We have a steering group that oversees this work, which I chair. And this, the ED Forum, the Economic Development Forum, consists of a mixture of councils, the Regional Public Service, and also the economic development agencies from across the region. So we've got a mix of representatives at the steering group level to help shape this work. On the screen there, we've got the timeline of the work that's happened since about midway through 2024 to now. So we established the project team, scoped the project, plan development, a whole lot of desktop research and analysis, which then informed a number of conversations, targeted stakeholder engagement conversations that we had with some of the key players in the energy sector. We then held a stakeholder workshop here at Environment Canterbury in the Waimakariri room with about 50 stakeholders from across the region, across the sectors. That was held in January this year. Probably one of the best workshops I think I've actually been involved in my career. It was I was thinking about a really poor dad joke earlier around the energy in the room was electric, but yeah, whether I'd say that or not, but yeah, it was a really good workshop. It just shows, I think, that the energy sector was really vested in where we're going and really wanting to come together to join up and have a strategic approach to energy going forward. So it puts us in a really good space to launch into phase 2 as well. So I just wanted to really highlight that because this is a piece of work where we've got a huge amount of engagement and we don't want to stop. We want to keep moving with this. So we developed the energy inventory that's been up through the chief executives and up through the Mayoral Forum and has been endorsed and published on the Mayoral Forum's website. I circulated a copy of that with the slides from today, and I'll also circulate a one-pager summary document, as well, which is quite handy, sort of A3 summary of the inventory itself. So the energy inventory itself provides an overview of the energy sector and systems. It draws on relevant published data and information, as well as information that came through the engagement with the subject matter experts and key stakeholders. We've drawn on a whole range of key data sources, including from the Ministry of Business and Innovation and Employment, ECA, Transpower, a number of the EDAs across the region. A whole range of different key sector stakeholders have been involved in the discussions. This is also considered factors that influence the energy sector and what that might look like into the future. The regional energy inventory includes has identified a number of opportunities and challenges as well that we'll take into the next phase of the work.
Yeah, I was
While we're
going
on
to
that
say.
slide, you appear to have a yellow dot on one of my farms as a solar farm. Are these actual solar farms, or are they just is this just a diagram which says there might be one there one day or something?
It's an indicative location. Councillor, for the location of the solar farms across the region, the applications and those that have been consented. So that's the information that came as part of the stock take. Yeah.
they're also probably not to scale. On that point, I also had a question. So I know EcoGas, for example, have got a plant that they're now building for anaerobic digestion in Hornby Way. And so are those projects that have been consented but not yet constructed, you've presumably incorporated those in, and then whether applications or proposals, do you pull all of those in together and then, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's certainly been part of the intent of this work, was to try and capture what has been consented or is in play at the minute, what people have told us in terms of what might be on the horizon, applications that are in play as well. So obviously through the fast track process, there was a number of solar farms that have been identified as well. So this is not an exhaustive list. It's a point in time. We'll continue to build this evidence base. So it's been as forthcoming as the information's been available to us to collate into the inventory. So I don't know if you want to add another comment.
Yeah, and it's also just really tried to capture all of the large scale ones, whether they are in place, under construction or planned. So we have done our best to capture what we've got at the moment.
Okay. And this is considering energy in the breadth, not just electricity. So if you've got like a heat source or other things, and that would still, could you perhaps just outline what different things and what that means in that it's energy, not just electricity?
So we have looked at energy as the whole and the mixed use that we have. So predominantly a large part of the report is based on electricity and our renewable electricity system that we've got, and the fact that the demand is going to increase. But there's also a lot in there around transport and industry. So really tried to pull a lot on the RETA reports that have been done for North Canterbury and South Canterbury, as well as the change that is going to potentially happen around the energy transition to move into more electric or other opportunities like hydrogen, wind, solar, those sort of things.
Lovely, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Can't see hand up, no. So if you'd like to carry on, that's great, thank you.
Just this slide provides a very high level overview of some of the things the inventory has shown us. We know that the energy system's facing major changes, with some of the key drivers being carbon reduction commitments, rising electricity demand, technological advancements, and climate change. Related to this are significant regulatory and policy changes at a national level affecting the energy sector, as we talked about earlier today. All significant scale energy generation in Canterbury comes from renewable sources, and mainly from hydro, but we rely on a variety of primary energy sources across different sectors. Many large-scale solar farm projects are at various stages in the planning pipeline and have the potential to diversify the region's energy mix. Significant investment is required in electricity generation and networks to meet the projected increased demand for electricity over time, and in order for industry to decarbonise. Through engagement with the key sector stakeholders and subject matter experts, there's been strong support, as I mentioned, for a collaborative regional approach to energy, and recognition that change will happen, and having a coordinated approach is more likely to put us in a much better position to respond strategically and to input to national processes. So this is where I said before, in terms of the connection with all of the other work that we're doing. Without energy supply and future security of that supply, we can't enable the growth and economic opportunities that we see for the region as well. So this is a bit of a snapshot here on the screen of the things that we've heard in the discussions that we've had to date. If there's any questions on any of that.
So Councillor Mackenzie has one.
I'll try and be serious this time, but there is quite a proliferation of small scale, well, actually substantially large, small scale solar stuff going in. How do you account for that? Do you have information on that? Can this forum get information on that from the hookup people?
Yeah, so I guess through those reports. Apologies. Through those discussions that Vanya has had and the reports that we've had, so a lot of that information is available publicly, and we've actually collated that into the inventory. So it gives us that sort of, I guess, cumulative energy generation from various sources and across how that is actually distributed across the region as well. But when you integrate that into the, thinking about fast track consenting and planning processes, having a joined up approach to thinking about energy and how that supports the transition to decarbonise, but also how does that support growth going forward, that's a really critical part of that conversation. So knowing where you're starting from and where you need to move to. Early discussions that I was having, I know we had workshops with Alpine Energy down in South Canterbury, and one of their considerations was around, assets being no longer needed should there be a shift in where growth or industry or those type of things, so having stranded assets. And so having a joined up conversation about how land use is going to change, how industry is going to change, how our economy is going to grow and how does energy support that is a really critical part of that. So, so we've got a cumulative sort of sense of where energy is generated and distributed and the different types of energy within that. And then that gives us that platform for the next round of discussion on what we do next.
So a question from me, where it says increasing demand for electricity up by 80% by 2050. Is that 80% more electricity than is currently demanded, or is that we will have electricity meeting 80% of the energy need by 2050?
So I believe that's a NZ national stat.
Do you want to answer?
Yeah. So I believe that's a New Zealand nationwide statistic that is commonly used, rather than just for Canterbury.
But sorry, my question is, what is it 80% more electricity than currently is needed,
Then what?
i.e. growing the amount of electricity generation by 80%, or is it that we will need to meet our energy demand, the energy total that we need will be met 80% of it by electricity?
Yeah, so I think it's the former, so the first one.
Okay.
As you're seeing with decarbonisation of the transport sector and certain industries, that increasing electricity demand is going to be quite significant over the next 30 years. So with population growth, transition to electric vehicles, those type of, AI, yes, yep, number of different demand sources for electricity. So that's what's driving that. So having these future energy scenarios is part of the next phase of the thinking. Selwyn District Council is currently doing a lot of work in this space with Orion, and we've been having a lot of discussions with them as well around what do the future energy scenarios look like for Selwyn as a part of Canterbury. And certainly the profiles of what is projected to be is sitting in that space. So.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, whether you've done, whether you're already doing that, looking at, for example, how much of the energy need of Christchurch could be met by putting solar panels on the north-facing roofs, for example. Like that's but that's the next step, you're saying?
Yeah, that's kind of getting into the next phase of the work. So what is, this is the current state, if you like. This is where we are as an energy, but pointing to these are some of the challenges and opportunities that we see in this space, so that we can then plan for meeting that demand. So what does that plan look like? What actions do we need to take to meet that? So.
And also, just I mentioned to you, Jessie, earlier, but I went to the Biogas Bridge Forum last week, which was, again, really enthusiastic sector, like really determined to make change and determined to decarbonise what's predominantly at the moment, the gas industry has predominantly met their needs by fossil fuel. And it's not sort of captured in this page that you've just put up on the screen, although I note that there is the little biogas blob on the previous map. But are there how well engaged are you with that sector, again, in terms of sort of understanding what the what might be already being talked about and considered, because you've mentioned that has been factored in to your what you're presenting to us today. And then of course there's the piece about how do we what would be the capability of that sector, for example, given that we've got a lot of organic waste in the Canterbury region. But that sounds, again, that's the next step. But this step, how much have you sort of engaged and picked up on where those sort of biogas and the gas industry are?
We have got a small section on things like biomass and biogas within the energy inventory report itself. But in terms of stakeholder engagement, in our first phase, we have engaged with a whole range of different sectors. I'm not sure if there was anyone particularly with a biogas kind of meant in the original engagement, but the next phase, we are wanting to broaden out to make sure that all of our key sectors are covered within that.
Thank you. So I've got, Councillor Mackenzie again. I've got Councillor Swiggs, Councillor Ward and Councillor Burns.
So look, I haven't got a question. I was just going to make a comment, really, where I suspect, my gut instinct says you're probably you not necessarily understand the changes that are happening, and maybe you're a bit too urban focused rather than. And so in terms of electrification will require substantial investment in generation. My view is that what I see happening out in the provinces for some substantial electricity users is that is already that's electricity replacing electricity. So solar panels replacing hydro power. And I think if we have another good year payout from in the dairy industry, because that's where I see a huge amount of investment going on, that will increase again. Dairy farmers tend to invest when they've got on those sorts of things when they've got cash available, and there's evidence that they think they have got all that. And so there are some big units going in, but that's replacing hydropower with solar power, but then that'll rely on that hydropower as the battery, if you like.
Yeah, that's a good comment, and you're going to hear from Rewiring Aotearoa after this, who are actually looking at that, farm transition, if you like, to different forms of supply there. So, yeah, not putting, having not all of our eggs in one basket is a good thing in terms of resilience for our sector. So actually having that transition to solar and other forms of energy is actually a really good thing across the region. So I'm not meant to be urban or rural focused at all in this work at all. It's different challenges in different spaces, absolutely. So, and that's what the planning, the next phase of the work is actually, how do we support the changing nature of our region over time.
Thank you. So, Councillor Ward.
Yeah, I just spent 3 weeks in America with my uncle who's into renewable energy, and come home with quite a few different views, I guess. But the first one that I think you can get 1% green loans in this country. So when people are building new houses, I think that there should be encouragement from the government and the local power authorities to actually, this is my opinion, to actually invest that $25,000 and you could have solar panels and batteries, and probably have enough batteries, more batteries than panels, so you've got enough storage, because it's no use generating a whole lot of electricity in the middle of the day when you're not there to utilise it. And I think that's the problem that happened in Australia. A lot of people put solar panels in, but then they had too much power being generated in the middle of the day and no way of capitalising on that opportunity. So that's probably one thing. And then we talk about turning other waste into energy, and I have talked with a local group here in New Zealand, but also talked to someone in America where they're actually taking the cellulose from forestry slash and wilding pines and things like that, and 400 tonnes of trees a day, 350 tonnes a year, 350 days of the year, will produce 7 million litres of aviation fuel or diesel. So that's another opportunity that and we've got plenty of put my wilding pine hat on. We've got plenty of forestry or trees that we could actually utilise for that, I guess, as well. I think that was all the comments I had, I guess. And around the fast tracking process, I was sort of kind of concerned to learn yesterday from a farmer in Mackenzie who's got a consent for fast tracking for a solar farm. That to get that fast track consent across the line is going to cost them another $750,000, and so the fast track process has become very slow track because of the cost, and that's kind of a concern as well.
You've got a briefing this afternoon on fast track as well, as I understand it. So certainly comments that are pertinent to that as well. So yes, it is an expensive process to go into. Just on the cellulose from Wilding Pines, I mean, that actually looking at all these other opportunities as part of the energy production, just to connect the dots as well, we briefed you last week on the regional land transport plan and engaging with key stakeholders. So we've been engaging with the airport about the aviation industry as well, particularly when you're thinking about movement of freight and people, and they're looking to decarbonise. So what are the other energy opportunities in that respect? So it's all connected. The whole decarbonisation space. We're also doing a whole lot of work on emission pathways and an emission reduction plan for the region through the climate partnership plan work through the Merrill Forum as well. So just sort of trying to connect the dots here on a number of streams of work that are all speaking to your points, Councillor. Yep.
And I guess if you do go down the road of putting solar panels on your own house, you do really want to shop around to who you're going to actually sell the energy to, because that has a huge difference on the payback period.
Opportunities for funding and loans and finance, etc. through ECA provide lots of opportunities in that respect. Banks, and you'll hear from Rewiring this afternoon as well after this discussion around some of the opportunities there too.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's what I think we'll be covering shortly. So, Councillor Swiggs.
Thank you. It's interesting. Fast track. I mean, you're a businessman, Councillor Ward. You should know that it's about if you can pay, you get to play. So got the money, you pay, and you get your fast track. But one of the things I'm really glad to see this happening. I mean, this was this fellow here next to me, Councillor Scott, and me were down at Alpine Energy talking about Clandy back in late 2023. Where they were saying if Clandy with the policy that the government had, was going to put its electric generator in, Temuka was going to run out of power. And that's where this basically has started from, and it's evolved, and it's really good to see it now starting to come. But there was a real realisation. They've got some real issues, especially in Temuka. It's not necessarily generation, but it's the network. And that's quite relevant for a lot of places in New Zealand. You go to the West Coast, for instance, you can't even get an electric car charger in some of those places because it will turn the power off in everybody's houses. So, the what do you call it? The distributed network thing out there. I'm really glad to see that. But what I'm really interested in, and I don't know if this has been talked about in the hui's that you've been having, but we've got a broken power system, not just necessarily in the generation, but the market. The market's stuffed. Are we addressing that at all in this? Because it's not working for anybody, except for the generators.
That's a good point. I mean, the whole retail side of it is another aspect to it as well. So at this stage, we're still agreeing what the scope of the energy strategy and plan will be, but it's certainly one of those aspects that we need to consider in that, and that's that energy pricing, energy security going forward.
The reason I ask it is there's no innovation in the energy space, because the generators are basically swallowing up all of the little what do you call them? So the generators are swallowing up all of the little retailers. For example, I'm with Flick, and it's just gone over to Meridian, and my power price has doubled. Well, not quite. It's nearly 80% more. And I'm just like, what the hell? I'm really piffed. So innovation in the energy space is going to create more investment, so people can do different things. People can get energy in different. Where is that coming out? Because I think that's really, if you're looking at a problem definition, apart from the network and getting power to places, that is for me one of the biggest problems that we have is the stifling of innovation, because the generators have too much control over everything.
So it's a whole continuum. whole continuum of energy, and we've talked about like local generation right through to your big generation of energy and talking about electricity, solar farms on solar panels on your roof and storage of electricity versus hydro is part of the bigger, broader sort of continuum. So how do we get more balance, I guess, into the system so that we have resilience, we have addressed some of those concerns that you've raised. This is the next phase of the work that we need to tackle some of these big challenges. We've identified through this work those opportunities and challenges. The next phase will be actually how do we unlock some of that. So yeah, absolutely take your points. Those are factors that we've identified in the work. What the solution is, I can't tell you just yet. That's what we need to work through. So, well, that's certainly why I guess today we wanted to bring this through to you as our council to gauge your views on some of this work and also to feed into the next phases of the work as well.
So my view is break up the monopoly and we'll be good.
I was just wondering if Fania might like to actually speak to this at all, because this to me seems like the intersect between central government is very much the player in this particular topic.
Yeah, I think when we get into the second phase of the work, it's around having all of the stakeholders. So when you're talking about Clandeboy and Fonterra, like they're a case study within this, they'll be part of our major energy users. We're definitely looking at that rural-urban divide and things like urban planning and what it might look like for us to have more distributed energy and how that then intersects with what is happening with central government and what is national direction and regulations and what changes are going to happen in those spaces. Probably at this point, without having a collective Canterbury-wide view, it can be difficult to feed into that. So having a consistent view of what we in Canterbury want, and that might be different across our region, but that might mean that we're in a better position to then be able to feed up into the consultation that's happening on a whole range of that regulation around electricity pricing at the moment.
Yeah, just to give an example, though, from just a small policy change at the government level that doesn't, well, it might be disappointing to some, in like, for example, the waste minimisation programme, for example, having made it that councils don't now have an obligation to collect food waste. That has a very direct impact on the biogas sector and on their ability to get finance, because all of a sudden their certainty of supply isn't there. So, it's joining up the pieces as well as much as any of it.
Yeah, I think that's just to respond back to that, like we have been really fortunate about having central government through our stakeholder engagement to date and continuing to have them through. So like working with ECA and MB, because they've got so many things and policy changes that are happening, if we can be influencing sort of in real time, then that's where we'll probably get the most benefit.
Thank you. So Councillor Edge?
Just interested in the appetite across the sector for regional collaboration. Came back from a meeting on Monday with the South Island Regional Transport Chairs meeting. Is what work's being done at the moment in terms of trying to align regions across, say, the South Island, and to see what the challenges are for those and the opportunities in different parts of the South Island?
So as part of this, we initially, when we first started scoping what the inventory looked like, we had a chat with the Waikato Regional Council about how we would go about this work actually, and then started looking at other parts of the South Island, and so the West Coast, Southland as well, with their energy strategies and looking at that, scoping out what the inventory, but also what the next phase of the work might look like. As far as joining up, and I know you're talking about the South Island Transport Chairs group and having a South Island-wide transport story. Potentially once we get down that further down this path, that might be something that you could start to look at. Actually, how does this work at a South Island level, and have a connected picture for energy across the South Island. So I did mention that to you on Monday when we were talking about the energy sector and infrastructure and other things that after we'd had the discussion with Nick Leggett from Infrastructure New Zealand around, in the energy sector, it's going to require significant infrastructure to support this, whether it's at a small local level or a much more micro level or a macro level. So But yeah, absolutely. I think there's the opportunity to think about it at a South Island level. How do we generate and distribute and energy across the South Island? It's not something that necessarily stops at our border.
Thank you. And Councillor?
Just to follow up then. Sorry. I suppose I'm coming at it from the idea that if you do that, that you might be able to find out the best fit places for different types of energy generation. Southland, for example, Manapuri, there's talk of people wanting international sites for cyber storage, AI storage, and where's the best place. So it's kind of has an economic as well as a locational factor.
I had Councillor Burns next. I'm conscious we've got an outside speaker coming in. Oh, sorry, John. I saw Councillor Ward a few times and Councillor Mackenzie, but yeah. We know Jesse, so we can put questions through if we run out of time.
Just a quick comment. I am looking at power, and on the transmission and the infrastructure is a critical thing. One side of the farm, I can do 50 hectares, which may or may not happen. On the other side of the farm, I can do 2 or 3 because of lines. So we can do our bespoke spatial planning. We can do all sorts of things about where we think things could go in time. But if the infrastructure's not there, if the substations aren't there, then it's a waste of time because we just don't have that infrastructure in place. And so there's a really critical conversation about that infrastructure that will transmit. And if I'm doing 1 or 2 hectares or something like that, and the place down the road, yeah, we're going to really build capacity, but we need the infrastructure to make that happen. So we think big, but it's actually a whole bunch of the small ones that Ian was talking about that will actually fill in a lot of that capacity, but the infrastructure is not there.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think that was a point rather than a question. Greg, did you have a quick question? Sorry, you left the room immediately, just as your moment came up. So. I am now because the next one is at 1:45. Okay. Okay. Apologies. All right. Thanks very much. And any questions anyone's got, we can feed them through Jesse and obviously Fania. If they're specific for Fania, I'm sure he can pass them on and we can get answers back that way. So thank you very much for that. Lovely. So kia ora. I know there is this final slide here. Is it just self-explanatory and we can take that as read?
Yeah, so over the next 6 to 12 months, we're doing that high-level vision, strategic framework and principles through to and then we'll lead into developing the strategic roadmap and action plan after that. So subject to further funding through annual plan processes and resourcing the project as well. So, but that's the steps in the project over the next 12 to 18 months. So, but happy to bring any further updates to council as we go forward. So
No, it's all good. I'm fine. Is there any green tea? Lovely. Thank you very much. So kia ora, and thanks for coming in to actually see us in person, Fania. It's always nice to actually put a name and face. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Find out.